All right, guys, we are live. This is UFC Louisville live recap show brought to you by sherdog.com. I am your host. My name is Keith Shillan. Joining me, as always, is the senior editor of sherdog.com, the great Ben Duffy. Ben, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing all right. Every time I close one of our previews, I say that we're going to talk about these fights on Saturday. I say we're going to talk about what was good, what was bad, what was surprising, what was controversial. There's always something. And I'm still waiting for the event, going on 3 years of doing this show together, like 200 episodes, where there's not something controversial to talk about. I have yet to be made a liar by any UFC event. There's always something controversial. And tonight, more than usual. Yeah, let's jump in, dude.
All right. Obviously, there's a lot of controversy. The big controversy was the main event, the return of fan favorite Cannonier. At least in Louisville, Kentucky, he's a fan favorite as he got a huge pop. He was taking on the Frenchman Nassourdine. Imavov won by 4th round TKO. Do you want to talk about their performances first? Do you want to talk about the stoppage first?
Well, we might as well talk about their performances first. I mean, this fight was shaping up to be a really interesting fight for 3 rounds and change, and then it all got flipped on its head. I think we might as well actually talk about what was happening.
Okay. To me, it was I thought both guys look really good. Agree or disagree?
I thought they both looked good. And it was shaping up to be one of those fights that whoever won, nobody's stock was going to take a huge drop. I will say that, I mean, we're going to talk about the finish when we get there, but that we were even in a position to talk about that is down to the possibility that Cannonier's chin is starting to slip.
Okay.
Like good stoppage or bad stoppage, that's as bad as he's been hurt at middleweight.
Yeah, I might disagree with you saying, no matter what happened, nobody's stock was going to go down. I'll say that for a little later, but I think Cannonier's stock went down. Not even counting his, whether his chin is gone or not. I just think of the position he's in now. Being his age, he really, other than Louisville, Kentucky, who was very pro-America tonight, very pro-American crowd. He's not really a fan favorite. You have bigger names, people who, he's already had his one title shot. Wasn't a good performance. Was a very boring performance. We get into it. He looked great when he first came out. I mean, this is a guy who's been out of the cage. Or, you worry about ring rust or anything like that. He came out fast starting. He looked fast. I mean, he looked physically great. I mean, he always does it. Like the guy's shredded, like you would believe.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
I mean, he came out. His jab was on point. He was landing these thudding kicks, short, tight power shots. I've always thought he was a very underrated wrestler. Good, just grinding, using his strength in the clinch, pinning Imavov against the cage. I mean, the guy's so freakishly strong. In early on, like the first in the late in the second round, Imavov started to come around, but even early in the first round, anytime Imavov started having any success, Cannonier would answer right back with a good punch or land some good shots. And it seemed like Imavov was really getting frustrated. And then somewhere about 30, 45 seconds left in the second is when Imavov seemed like he started picking up his rhythm, started picking up his timing, his range. Cannonier wasn't moving as much. Cannonier was like jabbing and L-stepping and stuff. That wasn't the case with as the fight went on. He started standing more directly in the center of him. Something that his own team said, "Hey, don't stand directly in front of this guy. He's got a speed advantage," which I don't think was huge advantage. I just think he found his range. And one thing I thought he was doing really well in Imavov, as second round. I actually still scored the second round for Cannonier. How did you have it going into the third?
I gave Cannonier the first 2 rounds.
Okay, so we had the same way. And then third round, we both had for Imavov.
I had it for Imavov, and really, it was Imavov kind of pulling away at the end. If you asked me halfway through the round, I thought it was dead even. Could be either guy's round, but Imavov in the towards the end of the third round started connecting on Cannonier in space, and the booth said it right around the same time I realized it. So I'm not like some genius, but this is so dependent on location because Cannonier is winning the fight when they're within 3 feet of the cage. In the middle of the octagon, Imavov has the advantage. And so he had the momentum going into round 4 for sure.
Yeah, I think one thing, obviously the speed advantage is there, but what I thought is the range. When Cannonier tried like backing away, he was still getting hit on the combinations because of how long and how fast he is. Didn't see much kicks from Imavov, but those long arms which just kept catching Cannonier at the ends.
And like even in the first and second round where I thought Cannonier won the round, I was impressed with how much success Imavov was having with his jab, and especially his double jab. His double jab kept catching Cannonier, like the second moment snap Cannonier's head back. I think Cannonier was surprised at the reach and the speed of that jab. You're right about the wrestling. I mean, the thing we're not mentioning here is Nassourdine Imavov is from Dagestan. I mean, he's a French citizen. He speaks French, but he's born in Dagestan, but we call him French because we can't believe that a Dagestani got out-wrestled that badly by the cage.
Yeah, he's not a good wrestler. I mean, to me, he's a guy who has MMA wrestling, but he's not a strong wrestler. And I'll tell you why. Well, there was times when he took Cannonier down. He had like good timing, got behind him, dropped him down. I think it was in the second, and he kept going with like I understand. I don't want to go on a really long rant on wrestling, but I can because it's my favorite sport. I was at a wrestling room today. I'm in the wrestling room almost every day. He had like a gut wrench. For those who don't know, when you're basically just having your arms wrapped around Cannonier's belly, and Cannonier's on all fours, and he's posted up. And I don't know if it's someone who just spent so much time, doing MMA wrestling and doesn't think about like get those posts. Those posters would keep it up. You always say like when you're teaching the littlest kid, you always say, "Oh, think of the guy like he's a table and you got 4 legs." And every wrestling coach has ever said, "No,
just break that in your elbow." Yeah,
but he wasn't doing that. I'm like, dude, just grab the elbow and he's posting himself, getting them up that way. You're just holding on, and some of that might be being that. And obviously Dagestanians are so good at getting those far posts and stuff. But generally speaking, those Russian countries only compete in freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling. And freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling, you have to understand this. And I apologize to people who are bored by it. There's what they call parterre is ground wrestling.
Yep.
And you don't get escape points. So guys don't try to get off from bottom, because when you try to get up, you can expose your back, and all it is just turning your back. It's much different than folk style. So there's not so much an emphasis on controlling the guy from trying to get out. You're more trying to get that gut wrench to start rolling the guy, which is obviously pointless in MMA to roll a guy. But in freestyle wrestling and in Greco-Roman wrestling is very important. I wonder if it's a little bit of that going on, where he goes to gut wrenches there. While if you are a collegiate wrestler, you're going to go more to the post.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, anytime I see a gut wrench, I instantly think of I instantly think of Greco and freestyle. And on the rare cases you see like a reverse body lift, I think of Alexander Karelin.
Yeah. When he goes to reverse grip, yeah. I thought Imavov was really good catching Cannonier as he was, like I was saying, escaping, but also he seemed like he really started getting the timing of Cannonier coming in, which wasn't the case early on. He was really struggling with that. I mean, I don't think he expected Cannonier to come out as aggressive. He came out very aggressive. I didn't expect Cannonier to come out that aggressive.
No, it's not his usual thing. He's usually kind of measured. Well, he's usually kind of measured the whole fight.
Think about his career. Obviously, I don't have every Cannonier fight memorized. The one fight I remember him come out extremely aggressive was Jack Hermanson. I mean, that was a long time ago, though. That was kind of the one where like really put Cannonier on the map as a top contender. So I think the stoppage was really bad. Now, Cannonier was hurt.
Yep.
But it was no different than he was buckled, but other guys were buckled in fights and didn't the fight get stopped. And I know it's different referees, and I think Jason Herzog is probably the best referee in MMA. And like Mike Trout strikes out, like everybody, Michael Jordan missed jump shots. Like it happens.
Jason Herzog is he's the best referee in the game right now. This doesn't change that. When you do as many fights as these top guys do, you're going to make mistakes. Sometimes you're going to make mistakes in the biggest moments when the brightest lights are on. For anyone who's watching this and doesn't know, like, I've attended the Association of Boxing Commission's MMA referee and judge training before. And, I was taught by a well-known ref. And he said, if you're in this business long enough, you're going to make mistakes. How you react to them afterwards and what you do to prevent them and minimize them in the future is what separates the great from the good from the bad at this job. But having said that, I completely agree. For me, I've watched a lot of fights over the years. I can probably count on one hand the number of standing TKOs I'm absolutely okay with. And it always comes down to one of two things. Either the fighter is unconscious and just because of some trick of physics, the fence is literally holding him up because like his legs are stiff and he's knocked the hell out, or the losing fighter is trapped against the fence and like there's literally no way he can escape. Like the other fighter has him restrained and he's being held up. The example I think of for that is Cain Velasquez versus Ben Rothwell, where Cain is on him like Cain Velasquez does and just beating him, and it looks horrific. And there was no need for more punches. Like Rothwell couldn't go anywhere because he's being pinned, and 3 more punches to the head is just going to make him forget 4th grade. Aside from that, a standing TKO, let him fight, man. Let him fight. And we say this every time there's one of these, it shortchanges everybody. Yeah, all Nassourdine Imavov did was go out and put on maybe the best performance of his career in the most important fight of his career. And now, if not a literal asterisk, we're always going to remember, oh man, that was that crappy stoppage. Well, yeah, it was a crappy stoppage where this thing was probably over in 15 seconds anyway. So yeah, it sucks for everybody.
Yeah, they said that it felt to me like a boxing stoppage, where you see all the time in boxing matches where, like, for example, Mayweather McGregor, like the way he was stopped, he was still on his feet. Yeah. I like how you summed it up well. Like Herzog it probably didn't change the outcome of the fight. It might didn't even change the outcome of the round he knocks out. But, say Cannonier survives and he goes to the fifth. Now it's 2-2. If the judges have the same scorecard as me and you had, a completely different fight. He recovers 5 minutes later. Who knows? But it's also more likely that Herzog stole the big knockout moment from Imavov. Maybe he lands a big uppercut, he lands a stepping knee, he lands a hike, whatever that it would have been.
And the cover picture on Sherdog and all the other MMA websites is Imavov walking away while Cannonier is face down on the canvas and the doctor's getting ready to turn him over.
Yeah, the highlight doesn't look as when they do the highlight package for his next fight, or say he gets on, say he makes his next fight on a pay-per-view and it's a big fight, co-main event, and they have like a countdown show and you have all the highlights. It doesn't have the same ring than if he just flatlined Jared Cannonier, or even put him down. He didn't have to put him out, but if he drops him on his ass, and he's standing over him, it looks better. Nice. That's fun. Nice job.
Matthew Chalk with the elbow off the top rope right off the bat. Outstanding.
Nice job. He said Herzog smelled of bourbon and cigarettes, just in case if someone's listening to this, just the audio. I don't know. Do we do the live show on audio? I don't think we do.
I don't. These are so chaotic. I don't post them on audio.
Yeah. I think it was Adam. Oh, sorry, it wasn't Adam. It was. I want to give him credit because I want to jump off his point. Somebody, David Oswald said, really bad concerning what it does for Jared. And a stoppage doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter based on what happens going forward, But to David's, I call him David. I'm sorry, Davis Oswald's point is what it does to Canada makes it worse because this guy's 40 years old. He's not the most popular fighter. I'm sure. The crowd in Louisville was, pretty excited, and I'm sure some of that has to do with beer. But if you lived in Louisville, Kentucky, and you're like, oh man, UFC's coming, it's coming to town June 8th, but they haven't announced a main event. You're like, oh man, I hope he gets something huge. You're not getting, any of the guys who fought on UFC 300. So you're like, oh, we're not getting Max Holloway, we're not getting Justin Gaethje, we're not getting, you're not getting Connor, you're not getting a title fight, but you're looking for the next big. the number one contender matchup. You're hoping for maybe, I mean, I don't know who's a contender coming up in the division. Maybe, okay, this is really bad, but I'm trying to think of someone that would be, maybe Shavkat Rakhmonov. You're saying, oh man, maybe he headlines. We get a guy like that, or whatever it is. I'm sure when they announced Jared Cannonier, there was a lot of like, oh, what the fuck.
Yes.
Or being that they're from Kentucky, they probably said, oh, bless their hearts.
Bless our hearts.
So he's 4 years old. He's been out for a while. His last win was a long time ago. He's got no personality. I mean, that's his biggest thing. He's got no personality. He doesn't sell himself. And then you kind of figure when we do like the phone call, okay, so Dricus du Plessis is not defending his title yet. We don't have an official fight, but we know when he says, hey, I know he's rumored to fight in possibly August, but say it's September, who knows? But I think it's most likely August. Israel Adesanya's getting the first phone call.
Yes.
Okay. So Adesanya takes it, but all of a sudden he breaks his leg in training. Who's getting the next phone call?
Strickland rematch.
Probably Strickland. Maybe Chimaev if Chimaev beats Whitaker.
If Chimaev blows Whitaker out, honestly, no. If Chimaev beats Whitaker, whether it's close, not close, or whatever, they're pushing him up the ladder. Because if he barely beats Whitaker, then they're like, crap, we better just like fast track this before something happens.
Yeah, I agree. So it's probably Adesanya 1, maybe Chimaev 2, Strickland 3. If Whitaker wins, no, it's kind of like Strickland 2, Whitaker 3 kind of situation. Okay. So he's already 3 phone calls down. But now Imavov's ahead of him. Right? Obviously, Imavov just beat him, so he's ahead of him.
Yeah.
And Brendan Allen hasn't been on a run. So he's probably ahead of him.
Brendan Allen's been on a run. No, Cannonier is always going to be as far down the speed dial as Sean Shelby can possibly justify.
And exactly. He has that John Fitch. He has that Bilal Muhammad. Like they were delaying Bilal Muhammad. They were delaying Leon Edwards. Like they would delay. Certain guys get that long, winding road treatment. They don't get that. And he's in that category. And when they lose a fight, oh, forget it. That's exactly what the UFC wants. I mean, this is good. I mean, they probably would rather more spectacular, but overall, you got the French guy, which is obviously an area that they want to really continue to grow. You got the younger guy. You got a guy that, I mean, doesn't really have the biggest personality, but that Jared Cannonier is not someone you can market, but at least maybe an area like in France, you can market Imavov. This was good for the UFC.
God, do they even like him in France? I don't know.
But overall, I think this is good for the UFC. Like if I'm running the UFC, I'm happy about this result.
Yes, again, would have been better if it were uncontroversial. But as far as who got their hand raised, the younger guy, the guy that has fought fewer of the top 10, the guy with, relatively speaking, probably a little more personality. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't exactly a personality pageant this week between those two, but yeah.
Yeah, and I apologize to anybody. No one has said this, but I've noticed like our connection is not the best. I think the audio is going really good, but the picture is not super clear. And unfortunately, the Wi-Fi keeps going up and down here. So I don't know if it's Ben's side, my side. Sorry, sometimes this happens. Imavov called for a fight with Sean Strickland, and he asked for it in France.
He's never letting it go.
He's asked for France. I love the idea. But dude, first of all, Sean Strickland is saying that I'm sitting out. I'm not weighing. I don't believe that was Strickland, even though he keeps saying. I mean, he said it last time before he took a fight against Costa. He said, "I'm sitting out. I'm getting fighting for the title." I don't believe Strickland. Strickland's a fighter. That said, he ain't going to France. He's not going to somebody else's, home country to fight them. A guy who's much further down the rankings, who doesn't have, Costa. There's some little bit of backstory.
Is a shame because I am sure that he has got some shit to say about France that would really make for an interesting fight week.
That's what I was building up to. Could you imagine? Okay. Yeah, could you imagine? I mean, look how he's going to town on Canada.
Yeah.
You got Canada, I'd say a pretty liberal country. Well, he's talking about communist Canada and all this stuff. Could you imagine France?
Whew. Yeah, it would be great. It'd be great stuff.
Oh man, Dave Salvo says Strickland will hit the beach in Normandy. Yeah, that's what he'd
Yeah,
take.
but he'll hit the beach at Normandy to kick the French out, not the Germans. Like he's like, yeah.
Yeah, he'll forget the French was the good guys back then. I mean, I could imagine the lines he'd be saying, and so that said, we agree that if you're the UFC, would you book Strickland? Like the way we do the matchmaking, no one has a choice. Yeah. Would you do that fight?
I'd do that fight. And honestly, here's the thing. Strickland, he says, I'll sit, I'll wait, I don't care. But if he thinks he can beat Imavov again. So to him, it'd be the difference between, do you want to wait 9 months or do you want to wait 9 months and probably make like $500,000 in the middle of it?
Yeah.
We put you co-main of a pay-per-view with like Gone in the top fight or something. You're making $500,000 easy.
Yeah. To me, I'm not doing that fight if I'm the UFC. And I just said no one has a choice, but if Strickland has a choice, you already beat the dude.
Yeah.
It was Strickland who took the fight on short notice, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So Strickland came off the couch and beat the guy, and it doesn't get him any closer to a title. It doesn't really do anything for him. He has everything to lose and nothing to gain.
Again, except money.
Yeah, except for money. But I'm saying,
yeah.
He's going to get paid a lot of money no matter who he fights.
That's true. I was only talking about whether it's take that fight versus sit, because he's been saying I want to sit.
Oh, so. Yeah. A lot of it's going to play out with what happens with Whittaker Chimaev. Mm-hmm. If I'm Strickland, I'm cheering for Whittaker to win.
Yes,
because Whittaker has lost to Duplessis. He's lost twice to Adesanya. They're probably not going to push him. If he does something spectacular, that might be a little different. He's still not going to help himself on the mic,
No.
But Strickland, I think the people have come around, even the hardcore Strickland people have come around to realize he's not an exciting fighter. It's not going to happen. But he's always going to have a section of people that's going to support him because he says the shit that a lot of people think.
Yep.
Yeah, he might go a little higher than some people, I'd say. Some people might be at an 8 and he turns it up to an 11, but there's a lot of people who think the way he thinks. I mean, look at his interaction with Lee there. What's his I can't think of his name. He's such a good dude. Alex Cayley.
Yeah.
I mean, that little clip he had became this huge, what is it? Not TikTok, but those little shorts. What do you call them? The shorts or whatever? I'm talking about the little clip. They're 20 seconds long, whatever they call them. That thing got tons of views.
It did.
It was the biggest story in the world at one point. I was watching, some political commentators cover it.
Yeah, 20 to 60 second sound bites are what really float to the top, just because they're easy to share, they're easy to consume. He's going to always provide you viral sound bites that make people happy or make people mad.
Let me ask you this: leaving Whittaker out, you said Chimaev probably jumps Strickland. I think there might be some truth to that. I probably agree with you mostly, but and we're going to get back to Imavov in a second, but assuming that the Adesanya Duplessis fight gets done, as it seems like that's going to, based on who wins, does that change? Not who you book, but who you think the UFC would book? If Duplessis wins, does that increase one of their chances more? If Adesanya wins?
If Adesanya wins, we're back to the spot where people who've already lost to Adesanya are, they kind of go to the back of the line. So that makes a difference when you're talking about Whitaker and Chimaev for sure, because Whitaker is frozen out forever if Adesanya is the champ.
And Whitaker,
I think,
sorry to interrupt you. Whitaker loses. I feel like he's almost in the same situation as Cannonier is.
yeah, except that he actually has a belt on his shelf.
Yeah.
Okay,
continue.
But in terms of Chimaev versus either Adesanya or Duplessis, doesn't matter. Either of those is fire from a competitive standpoint and from a promotional standpoint.
Yeah, I agree.
The funny thing is, Khamzat Chimaev has actually proven very little in terms of his star power. Like, he's never been asked to actually carry a pay-per-view card, but the buzz around him, the people that love him, the people that hate him, the people that just admire what he can do in the cage when he actually gets in there. Like, I can't think of anybody who seriously is like, nah, Chimaev is not a star. He's going to flop. Like, everybody feels it, but we're all speculating.
He reminds me of a character in like a movie, like the henchman in the movie who has like one really good line.
Yeah. That's kind of it. He looks kind of villainous, like not because of not through any fault of his own, but like the hair lip repair makes him look like a villain from a 90s action movie back when we were like really tasteless about that kind of shit. Like, and then he just has that kind of sneering personality. I mean, I said it before, he's got the mixture of Khabib, where just the accent and the delivery make everything kind of comedic, but then he's got a dash of like the Conor in your face brashness at the same time.
Yeah, like, he's got more villain than Khabib had. Khabib had like a lovable side to him.
Yes, whereas
he's straight villain. Like, he's if this was like a Russian mafia guy, he is the hitman who, you know, hey Boris, go take this guy out, and he has some funny line.
I mean, we've had a fighter in the UFC that was a literal hitman for Ramzan Kadyrov. You remember Magomed? He was a fucking flyweight. He's the scariest flyweight in his. Well, he and Alexis Villa, the two murdering flyweights, are the two scariest 5'4" men in history. Like, you don't think Khamzat would get the phone call? Like, that's my question. How far down Ramzan Kadyrov's speed dial is he if he needs someone dead?
Not that far. So yeah, I think it'd be better for Strickland if Duplessis wins, because there isn't a history between Chimaev and Duplessis. There is some kind of history, and honestly, I don't think it was it was one of Strickland's more entertaining fights. I mean, it was a really good fight with him and Duplessis. They had a great fight. Now, obviously, his best performance in his career was him beating up Adesanya, but there's no history between Adesanya and Chimaev, but there is like two big personalities that's a mega fight if it happens. I know we've gone way off the road of Imavov. Long story short, I'm saying all that to say I'm putting him against Robert Whitaker no matter what the results against Chimaev. Whitaker wins, I'm putting Imavov versus Whitaker. If Whitaker loses, I'm still doing Imavov for Whitaker.
I don't hate that at all. I like that, in fact.
Who, did you have a different name?
Well, I had the Khamzat and Whitaker fight kind of circled, and I was thinking pick someone who's coming out of there that isn't cut or broken fingers that can fight around the same time. But I like the idea of defaulting towards Whitaker.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mess up his name.
Anthony Tardif. Yeah.
There's not Brendan Allen. So you kind of have like the two younger guys, two guys who are newer on the scene, the top guys fighting each other. I don't hate it. And that's actually probably the most likely one. Especially if they do like a fight night. If they do a fight night in France, I don't know if that's anything planned like that, but I can see that headlining. I think that's, like you said, I think that's most likely, but I'm going the Robert Whitaker one. Cannonier is tough because he's been in the division for so long. He's fought everybody. I feel like he's at the point where you kind of have to use his name to test the guys. You know me long enough.
I know you, and so I knew you were going to be happy because I arrived at that conclusion about him when thinking about matchups. If the fight tonight, for as good as he looked for a while there, is an indication that he's starting to slip, then your time is limited, because
Mm.
if the end is starting to come, those wheels are going to fall off quick. You use them to build up the people that are coming up. So maybe you make him versus Allen. If you think Allen is the future, and then throw him at Cannonier. If you think Cannonier has slipped enough that this isn't a suicidal matchup, then if Joe Pyfer gets past Marc-Andre Barrio, you push him in there. You know,
Kind of like what happened with Hermanson when he fought Hermanson.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
A little more seasoned. I went with Kyle Bajardo. I know I'm mixing up his name.
Kyle Bajallo, I like that too. He's another guy. He clearly is part of the future of the division. He doesn't have a signature win against the name that the average semi-hardcore fan would recognize. Cannonier is it. I like that.
That'd be a huge step up in competition by Bajardo. But eventually you got to get. And I would put it as a main event. I put it as like a fight night main event. What's like another Louisville? Somewhere where Cannonier is popular somehow.
Arizona. I mean, he's lived in Arizona for a while now. Like he's from Dallas. Then he spent the whole young adulthood and first part of his career in Alaska, of all places. He's been in Arizona for nearly a decade at this point. Put him in UFC Phoenix or UFC Tempe or something.
Yeah. There you go. The UFC has not traveled anywhere. I think it's actually a perfect idea to go to Alaska, go to Anchorage. I don't know if they have an arena there, but I asked Dana White once. He actually liked my idea, and I said, "Hey, I did the research, and I forgot how many states it was, but it was something like, dude, you've been to 40 states. The UFC's had cards of. I'm like, you ever think about trying to do all 50? And he's like, no, but I kind of like that idea. That was like 2 years ago. I don't think he's checked a box on any of those things. I was just trying to get a.
You're just trying to angle for UFC Rhode Island.
Yeah, I was trying to get Providence. Yeah, I mean, I was. But Anchorage would be cool. Anything else you want to say?
No, not really. So fun fight, bummer about the ending.
Yeah, so we had a really good night of predictions. We both hit some upsets. The next two fights are going to be the downside of our picks. But as a fan of the sport and as a fan of what I want to talk about, that's what I always kind of root for. I'm glad I got both these picks wrong, the next two fights, because I think it's better for the sport. Nothing against Dustin Jacoby or Ricky Tercios, but these are the two guys that UFC wanted to win. So like the top three fights, the UFC got the guy they wanted to win. Yes. As Dominick Reyes took on Dustin Jacoby, winning by first round TKO. Dominick Reyes is back, my man. Can we do matchmaking first?
Absolutely.
Instead of talking about the action, let's go right to matchmaking. I mean, there's only one match today, right? Dominick Reyes, John Jones too.
Wow. You really think he's back?
Obviously, I'm joking. I'm joking, but somehow John Jones on Twitter will make this matchup before he makes a Tom Aspinall fight. Somehow he'll justify that. I think there was a lot of pressure on Dominick Reyes heading into this fight. It was now or never for this guy. Not only was there pressure heading into the fight, there was pressure in the fight. Dustin Jacoby came after him.
He sure did.
And it was looking like, oh man, this is gonna be bad. I was like, oh no, he's gonna put him out any second now. And then just he walked right into a perfectly timed left hand. Let me ask you this question. Was this knockout? Because I think what's going to happen, I think the story, so you're going to know my answer. I think the story is going to be Reyes is back, where I think the real story is Jacoby's chin is gone. So which one is it, do you think?
It is a lot of column B. I'm 100% with you on this. And you kind of called this. You've been calling it. You've said, yeah, Jacoby had lost 3 of 4 coming into this fight. But the disturbing part is that his chin seemed to be going. Because even at the beginning of this second stint in the UFC, where he had all that surprise and success and kind of made it into the fringes of contention, it was never about being unhittable. He wasn't like he was a very, very good kickboxer, but he wasn't a matrix kickboxer that was all about being unhittable. It was about parrying, slipping, like blunting your offense and then coming back with more artillery. And I mean, just kind of like a very elaborate Chuck Liddell that lasts as long as your chin does. You saw it coming. I agreed. I saw it coming. That doesn't mean I thought Dominick Reyes was going to be the guy to tip it over. I didn't. Nothing leading up to this, even weigh-ins day, even the walkouts to the cage, made me think that Reyes had it in him to do this to Jacoby. So even a dilapidated Jacoby, I thought was going to take Reyes to the cleaners, but no, I don't think Reyes is back. But it's light heavyweight, man. Like, it's the low fight IQ division. It's the next thing over to heavyweight where everyone is big. Almost everyone has huge power, and almost everybody is defensively porous to some extent. I mean, this is the division where Yuri Prochazka won a title. He's one of the most one of the worst defensive fighters ever to win a title in the UFC in the modern era. Like, it's light heavyweight. So, I mean, he's Dominick Reyes. How many more wins would he have to string together?
Oh, not many at all.
Not many at all. Like, we're going to talk about matchups next. The people I'm talking about for him are at least top 15 fighters.
Yeah, what I'm hoping, I'm hoping it was Cannonier. Like, I'm hoping that Reyes is back. I'm hoping he's his talent. I'm hoping, I know he had a lot of health issues and he took some time off and maybe he got his life right and just he had this terrible slump, but suddenly he's back and he's the guy that, in my opinion, the only person to beat John Jones. I thought he beat John Jones.
Yes.
A very close fight. I'd have to watch it again. I'm sure the John Jones haters always make it seem like he got crushed. That was not the case. But it's the first. I mean, I know technically Thiago Santos is the only one to win a scorecard against John Jones. And obviously I'm ignoring the Matt Hamill debacle, but
yeah,
the Bray is the only one that I scored a fight for him.
He's the only guy that it felt like he beat John Jones. Yeah. Like, even the first Gustafsson fight, I didn't feel like Gustafsson to beat Jones. Yeah. I was just like, wow,
he did well.
Jones is human.
Yeah. You've heard me say this a million times. That fight is, well, first of all, I think the fight is so overrated. I don't think it's a good fight, but to me, it's not special. Like, it wasn't as good as people think it's.
When somebody spoils a surprise for you, it just becomes a good fight. Like, it's a great fight because everybody expected John Jones to be sitting on his chest in 3 minutes and elbowing the shit out of him. And instead, like, it became a blood and guts fight.
Yeah.
Like, that's, yeah.
And to me, it wasn't nearly as close as people thought. To me, I had a 4-1 for John Jones. To me, worst case scenario was 3-2 for John Jones. But anyways, I don't, we get sidetracked sometimes. I would love for Reyes to go on a run. I would love for him, to get matched up, win 2 or 3, suddenly be that guy fighting Alex Pereira, and he's like, oh, I missed my opportunity against John Jones. I'm not going to miss my opportunity against Pereira. I'd love for him to win the title. I really feel like enjoy this night. If you're a Dominick Reyes fan.
He just proposed to his fiance. He said, he seems happy. Like, yeah, enjoy this moment. But he doesn't strike me as a guy who's going to show himself the door when the time is right. I mean, if he had lost tonight, that would have been 5 in a row.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think many people are tune in to hear what we had with Dominick Reyes, expecting us to say this. I'm sure they were expecting us to praise him. And again, the one thing I say about us, like, we don't root for people, this and that. We have no problem saying when we make picks wrong. Like, I couldn't kill us. I've been watching fights for 30 years now, more than 30 years or something like that. I really hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping I was wrong about Dragos Duplessis. I kept saying, like, oh, sell this guy. He's not going to the title.
I picked Miguel Baeza to beat Puna Soriano tonight. Soriano got in 250 lucky punches, and that was the difference in the fight. Just 250 lucky punches.
200, that's it. That's it. Reyes, he's on he lost, what was it, 4 in a row. It was John Jones, then it was Jan Blachowicz, Yuri Prohaska, and Ryan Spann.
Yep.
The one argument, other than Spann, the other guys are special fighters, especially at the time they fought him. Yeah, you might. I mean, Jan Blachowicz might have dropped a little bit. Who knows? But at that, he won the title that night. He defended the title. He went on a great run. So maybe it was a little premature. Ignoring the Ryan Spann fight, because that's a fight he probably.
And you know what?
Yeah.
Ryan Spann he's an extremely light heavyweight guy. He has absolutely elite offensive weapons. He has huge defensive holes, and he has the light heavyweight lack of fight IQ, which means that he's prone to dropping a fight at any time. But I can't, if you give me a top 10 list of fighters that I wouldn't want to fight when I was Dominick Reyes in November of 2022, coming off of 3 bad losses, or 3 losses, 2 of them bad, lacking in confidence, body all beat up, Ryan Spann is up there. Ryan Spann is up on the list of guys I don't want to give free shots at my chin for a round.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely not. So what are we doing with Reyes? Who would you like to see him?
I got 2 ideas. The winner of Oezdemir versus Walker in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Or if Khalil Roundtree is going to be ready to return in July, if he can wait until say September or something, I like Roundtree versus Reyes, because Oezdemir and Walker the winner of that's going to be right on the fringes of the top 15. Yeah. Roundtree was on the outskirts of the top 10, before he had his positive test. Those are appropriate. If Reyes beats that, then he gets a top 5 opponent his next time out. That's when you throw him at Anthony Smith, or you do a rematch with, one of the guys that he's already fought.
I think Roundtree.
You think Roundtree murks Reyes?
Oh, I think he works him bad. I think he murks him real bad. I think so. You said, he beats Roundtree, then he gets Anthony Smith. I think it's the other way around. I think Roundtree's ahead of Anthony Smith. And that's actually the guy I'm booking him with because of the name value. I think someone said it. I want to give the person acknowledgement. Somebody said, it was Matthew Chalk said Reyes versus Smith, 2 borderline wash guys coming off underdog wins. That's how I kind of feel like it. I feel like it could be a fight night main event, or it could even be on the main card of a big pay-per-view, 3rd from the top, 4th from the top, in a really big pay-per-view. That's the fight I'm doing. Because to me, you kind of protect one of your bigger names in the division, and you bring him closer to a title shot, or closer to then getting. I think Khalil Roundtree murks both of those dudes bad.
Well, I would think so, except Roundtree is one of the few guys to pop in the post-USADA era. What does he look like when he comes back? There's always the chance that he's slipped just a bit. He'll be 38. So yeah, it's Reyes would be a huge underdog, but Reyes is going to have to win a couple fights as an underdog if he's serious about getting back into the title picture. Competitively, the Smith fight makes sense, but I'm scared of that fight for Reyes because Smith is one of the few guys in the top 20 at light heavyweight who has good fight IQ and is an overachiever.
Oh yeah. But I'm okay with if Smith wins because Smith isn't, he'll never be a huge star. He'll never be a champion. But he does enough broadcasts. He talks enough. He's well spoken that he can build excitement around him. His whole little beef with Pajeda was fun. He got enough hate. He knew how to get the masses to talk. Smith to me, now Roundtree I think is a way better fighter, and if someone won a title it'd be Roundtree, but Smith is the guy I'd rather promote to get over. I'd rather use Smith to get over somebody else.
Okay. I mean, I'm not mad at that.
So yeah, if there's a guy coming up the ranks, that I really think, oh, this is the next big thing at light heavyweight, I want to give him a name, a matchup against a top 10 guy, I would much rather match Smith against that guy because Smith's got a bigger name than Roundtree and he's an easier fight.
That makes sense to me.
Speaking of shot guys, in like 20 years, Rosas Jr. will be shot. In the meantime, dude, in 20 years.
In 20 years, he'll be 39, but he'll be a light heavyweight by then, so he'll be right in his prime.
I just think of this. In 20 years, Raul Rosas will still be younger than Jared Cannonier was today. Raul Rosas took on Ricky Turcios. Rose winning by second round sub. I want to just say real quick, and we'll get to the fight. If you don't want to touch someone's glove, just shake your head or don't like. I didn't like the Turcios threw a kick when Reyes went to like touch gloves.
Yeah, like don't do that.
That's a dick move. Like if you like, I have no issue with people who don't want to touch gloves. Like I think I remember the first time I saw guys touch gloves that I remember, and I think it was Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture at UFC. What was that? 43, their first fight, and it was like, yeah, because it's Randy and Chuck, like two baddest dudes and like two respectful guys. It was completely just 100%, about the
rivals that did not hate each other.
Yeah,
and two of the at worst like 3 or 4 biggest stars in the sport. Yeah,
and it was like I'm sure that wasn't the first time someone touched gloves, but it's the first one I remember. It was like it seems special. Now it's just like what you do. It's like shaking hands and wrestling. But I have no issue. I have no issue if you don't want to do that. Like I'm going to war, I don't want to shake your hand, but like when he reaches his hand, just don't reach out. But don't throw a kick. Like don't throw a punch. Don't like make it obvious. I'm like Brad Katona went to Jesse Butler went to touch Brad Katona's hand, do the same thing, and Brad Katona just like kept moving away, like moved and like, okay, you don't want to touch gloves. Like that's how you handle it.
That's because Brad Katona has a 9-inch reach. He didn't want to like let
he couldn't reach him. He didn't want to get embarrassed.
Get that close to his chin. Yeah, I can't let you get close to me.
That said, talk to me about Rail's performance. I mean, for a 19-year-old kid, this is super impressive to me.
He super impressive because here's the thing: Ricky Turcios came out and he did the Ricky Turcios fight. Shout out to Adam, my kid, sometime host of this show, who said one of the truest things I've heard said in MMA. Ricky Turcios fights like a stuntman. Like he's a wild man. He lets out a scream and comes out guns a-blazing beginning of every fight. It is just a steady stream of punches, kicks, and wrestling entries that are specifically designed to create scrambles. Because what really makes his game go is scrambles.
You know what it reminds me of? Like a clown in the circus who's actually like really athletic and stuff, but they're supposed to be like clumsy. And so they fall over things, but they like fall into like a backflip or suddenly they step on something and they suddenly get stretched into a split. Like they're supposed to be goofy with it, but like they're actually like an extremely great athlete. That's like,
and that's him. And it worked. It worked as well as it was ever going to work against Raul Rosas Jr. He got the scrambles on the ground, and sure enough, Rosas was stronger and more positionally sound, but Turcios had his moment. There was that moment late in the first round where he had his back, was working for the rear naked choke. That was Turcios' chance to steal the fight, or at least steal the round. The things you're looking for in Raul Rosas Jr., especially now that he's taken his first loss. You know he's never going to be 22-0. Now that he's taken his first loss, what you want between now and when he hits the top 10 or top 5, if he ever does, is I want better conditioning and I want poise. I want to see him take on veteran fighters who are specifically trying to rattle him and get him out of his game and see him react well. He reacted well here. Like Turcios did a little bit of a dirty trick to start the fight. Then he launched into the usual Ricky Turcios routine. Rosas survived the first round. He may have won the first round. Like I was leaning Turcios, but luckily I didn't have to score the round. But he came back the second round, kept sticking to what worked. Turcios tried the wild man thing again. Rosas won the scrambles this time. He took Turcios' back, and there was no escape. Like I thought it was an outstanding performance by Raul Rosas Jr. And in terms of how I feel about him as a future prospect, a future contender in whatever division, I like this better than if he had just throttled Turcios in 60 seconds. I liked seeing him have to undergo a little bit of adversity, go into the second round of a fight.
I think it was a lot of adversity.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was in trouble for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was trying to get that rear naked choke. He was like crushing his jaw there. And yeah.
I mean, dude, nothing is going to ever crush that jaw. That jaw is like the front of a fucking bulldozer, but
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, he's no Ellen Joe Band over there. He's not the most handsome guy, but he's got a dog in him, which I wasn't sure he had. And being that he's only 19, I mean, he had every opportunity to do that. You know, you've seen it before where guys on your chin and it's getting crushed, and suddenly it just, so magically it slid underneath my throat and now I got choked out. Where everyone's like, no, that hurts. I want to get out, but I can't like tap to it. I can't tap to. I mean, honestly, exactly what he did to Tercios. Tercios was in the same exact position, and suddenly all of a sudden his arm was underneath his throat. It's like,
yep,
because you can't tap to a face crank, and especially not against a 19-year-old kid. But if he catches your throat, he catches your neck, so be it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no choice. The blood to my brain is going out, you know. So to me, the kid had some dog in him because he had the opportunity to quit. You're in an arena, you're 19 years old, you're going against a veteran who's more experienced, and you know, Tercios, he didn't win the Ultimate Fighter show. He took second, right?
He won.
Oh, he won it. Yeah. He beat what? Brady Heastand in the finals?
Yeah, he beat Heastand.
Okay, yeah. So he's getting, you know, he had an opportunity to bail out and he did it. And he showed, I thought his wrestling looked really good. I thought his, like you said, more like composed out there. And yeah, the question mark is, you know, that one fight he lost is, you know, his cardio looked bad. How does cardio look better? He got to stop it in the second round. Now, I'm not saying he's, you know, Max Holloway level cardio, but dude's 19.
He's 19.
Don't be surprised if every single time he fights, he looks like a completely different fighter. He hasn't even reached his like man body yet.
He really hasn't. I imagine that his best achievements are going to take place at 145. But we'll see.
We talk about people growing, you know, like we talk about them usually gaining weight. He may literally be growing in height still. Yeah, I mean, I know it's like rarer, but like I think isn't it possible to grow to like at 21 or something like that?
Some people do. I mean, most people are done growing around 17 or 18, but who knows?
But some people still keep growing. So like, it's not out of the possibility that he could all of a sudden you see him, he's 2 inches tall.
I mean, Puja Tomar grew from 4'10" to 5'4" in the last 3 months.
Oh my God, we'll get to that in a little bit. Holy crap! First of all, Dev, what are you doing? Dev has one job.
Go to India,
dude.
Bring a tape measure.
Yeah. Check the kick. Check the height, dude. You know what I mean?
Garrett Clemens, he's Mexican, so it's doubtful he's still growing. Well, the real question is, if he grows much more, they're gonna like move him to the national basketball team. So, hopefully,
volleyball or something.
Yeah.
You know what? And talking about national basketball, just to get our what's the word? The algorithm up. Caitlin Clark didn't make the U.S. basketball team.
Yeah. Poor Caitlin. Oh well.
I do not have an opinion about that. Just if we say Caitlin Clark, I can put that in the hashtag now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dude is probably a decade away from his prime. Now, I think his prime will be a little bit sooner because of the experience he'll get, and you know, obviously, he's not going to be maybe 10 years from now when he finally gets a push. But technically speaking, like he probably is like most people. If this was a normal fighter coming up in the regionals league, most people at his age hasn't even joined an MMA gym yet.
Nope.
Or they're wrestling in college, or they just started doing jiu-jitsu or whatever.
Again, this is an example that I'll come back to over and over again, but Charles Oliveira joined the UFC when he was 19, and look how long it took him to really hit his stride. Like, he's a completely different fighter.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
and incidentally, he came to the UFC as a very impressive grappler who had tons of holes everywhere else and would kind of wilt or fold when he lost, which those are things that don't normally change. So yeah.
Fierce D says Tercios would lose to Caitlin Clark. I don't know if Tercios would lose, but Brad Katona wouldn't be a 7-1 favorite if he fought Caitlin Clark. I mean, I did see that lady knock her down. I don't know the lady's name, but the lady who like gave her a cheap shot. So maybe. The one thing before we move on, I almost thought about doing matchmaking, but with Rojas. But what I would do with Rojas would be much different than what the UFC would do. I would give him the slowest treatment possible. You know, if you're ranking guys in the division, like I don't know where Tercios, you know, if you actually, like, I know the UFC doesn't do this, but if you took everyone in the division and just ranked them as the best guy, second best guy, all the way down till you got to Tercios, I would go like one spot above that, 2 spots above that. Like, I don't jump and have him face like a top 15 guy anytime soon.
They did, and it was too much too soon. Like Christian Rodriguez was like a borderline top 15 guy when they fought, and it was too much too soon. Like, I think in hindsight, that loss is going to age pretty well.
It could. It's good. Clemens says, give him O'Malley already. Okay. All right. Before that, so Bruno Ferreira took on Dustin Stolfus. Bruno Ferreira winning by first round TKO. I'm gonna dude, this guy's fun as hell. I freaking love this dude. That said, if I was like if I owned stock in Bruno Ferreira, if UFC fighters were stocks, or if it was like a fantasy team, you know, you like buy low, sell high, I'd be selling him right now.
Dude, he wouldn't even be a stock. He would be like a cryptocurrency that's like named after like chewed pieces of gum under a desk or something. Just where you know it's not reliable. If you can make any money off it, sell now.
Yeah. He seems like a guy freaking selling like fake watches on the side of the road, like fake Rolexes. Now, I'll tell you right now, you can buy a fake Rolex as long as it still works. Good for you. The guy has 1 round of cardio because of the way he fights. I mean, he was leaning to his left so bad. I talk about people loading up. This guy, it's like he's taking the punch out of his pocket. I think he's or like he looks like a guy at the gym reaching down to pick up a kettlebell off the ground. He's gonna hit you with it. Like, dude, the guy has no technique, no
a week
defense.
or 2 ago, I went to a bowling alley. It's one of the newer ones that has like, you know, like they have one of the punch machines, you know, the ones where you just run up and punch the bag. And there was a dude that was like half in the bag himself. Like he was pretty drunk and he was trying to get the highest score he could on it. So he was a drunk guy, like winding up and taking like a 5-step run up to try to wing punches at this bag. And he telegraphed less than Bruno Ferreira.
Bruno Ferreira, same scenario. The only difference is he runs up and hits it, but he picked up a bowling ball when he did it. He hit him with the bowling ball. Now that said, like his cardio is bad, his technique is bad. He's hit him. I mean, Dustin Stolfus was hitting him, but his power is like I might want to get hit in the head by a bowl. Like if you told me like, all right, take a punch from Bruno Ferreira, or have my 9-year-old son pick up a bowling ball and hit me with it. I don't know, man. I'm not sure which one to take it. You know, grown man, I might not take the bowling ball, but I might take a kid smashing me in the face with a bowling ball instead of getting punched by Bruno Ferreira.
It's that power where shots that don't look like they connected solidly, just people go down. It's hilarious, and it's again something that's only traditionally you can only stay in the UFC with that kind of approach and that kind of skill set, usually at like heavyweight. But we're kind of creeping down where, you know, you got some light heavyweights that can have a little lifespan like that. He's a middleweight. He's kind of sticking around. Like, yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because obviously power is the great equalizer. I actually wrote down, I wish he was a heavyweight. Because if he was a heavyweight, he'd be a contender.
Dude, he might be one soon. Like, really, he looks like middleweight William Knight to me. So he might just miss weight by 27 pounds the next time out, and all of a sudden he is a heavyweight.
Oh, William Knight. I'll still remember the only guy I've ever seen in between rounds, an amateur fight, going against Jorgen De Castro at Reality Fighting in Kip Kohler's organization. I was hanging out with Dave Chicken Palm Stewart at the fights, and William Knight started breakdancing in between rounds. The one thing that Paul Ferreira didn't get, that spinning back elbow was insane. Yeah, I'm assuming he's gonna get something for it. The one thing I feel bad for him is that Stolfus didn't go out cold. Because if he goes out cold, I mean, you have, a fight of the year candidate. It's an all-time knockout if he goes out cold.
Yes. It's probably our knockout of the year so far if he goes out cold.
Yeah. I mean, the Holloway Gaethje one is up there, but that's more. That's more of the moment than the actual the punch that was thrown.
Yes.
I mean, it's still gonna be a hell of a highlight, but just not the same. I mean, this one would be, if you went out cold. I mean, that the shorts and the TikToks and all those would be going crazy right now. Guy had everything going for him, and then he fucked up.
He took the name in vain. That
he started saying, "I love Jesus, I love Jesus." Jesus did not tell you to call Bo Nickel. I tell you that right now. Jesus is just up there right now going, dude. You don't call it the chosen one.
No. He only died for most of your sins, Bruno.
I will say this. If I'm the UFC, I'm not doing that matchup, even though I do think Bo wins that fight. If Bo's stupid enough to stand with Bruno Ferreira, he's really trusting his his punching skills. He could get knocked out. But Dustin Stolfitz took you down. Like, Bo's taking you down.
Yeah. Having said all that, it'll be lost in the finish to the fight, both the technique and the stoppage. And it'll be lost because Stoltzfus is now 2-5 in the UFC. And I mean, we'll get to the cut list when we get to it. But until that point, Stoltzfus looked better than he had in any fight in the UFC, including the ones that he won. Like, he looked physically good in all of his fights up until now, win or lose. He was the slower, smaller, weaker guy and just seemed to be fighting such an uphill battle, but he was beating Ferreira to the punch. He took him down. Like, Stoltzfus looked good. If that was Stoltzfus' first fight in the UFC instead of his 7th, I'd be like, this guy's going to stick around. I mean, he has stuck around, but yeah. Stoltzfus looked good.
Yeah, I agree. I want to make a side note. So, like, I'm a coach at a wrestling/judo gym. Like, I don't disrespect judo. My son does judo. If Bruno Ferreira, he called out Bo Nickel and he said, let's do judo versus wrestling. It's Bruno Ferreira versus Bo Nickel in an MMA fight. It is not judo versus wrestling.
No. And
why I'm saying that, ask anybody who's done judo and ask anybody who's done wrestling, who's done both, like my son has. And I've kind of dabbled in judo a little bit. I wouldn't say I've done it, but I've dabbled a little bit. There's no comparison. Wrestling will squash judo in a straight match.
Agreed. And what it really would end up being, based on what I've seen from both guys, is it would be haymakers against wrestling.
Yeah,
and wrestling really trumps haymakers when, oh, by the way, the wrestler is way bigger.
Yeah. Let's move on. This is probably gonna be the quickest one for us to break down. Julian Marquez took on Zach Reese, with Reese winning by first round TKO. So we had 3 consensus upset picks. The one we got wrong was we both picked Tercios, which we almost went 3 for 3. Tercios over Rojas. Our best pick was Zach Reese over Julian Marquez. Reese, I mean, he just starts him. Great TKO. I mean, what else to say? It was like 20 seconds. First exchange.
20 seconds. And he was right. Like, in the post-fight interview, he was like, I know I look like white trash and I kind of fight like white trash, but I have some skills, because it was a nice setup, man. The body kick and then the uppercut that just, Marquez wasn't really defending himself very well anyway, but just split the gloves perfectly, dropped him like he was shot. It was a pretty finish, man. Good stuff.
Yeah, and you got to really wonder if, I think that's 3 knockouts recently for, I think 3 losses are all by knockout. Not looking very good for Julian Marquez. Speaking of not looking good, Miguel Baez's return to the UFC couldn't have got worse as he took on new welterweight Puna Soriano. Puna looked fantastic at welterweight, winning a unanimous decision. I scored it 30-25.
Yeah, I scored at 30-25 as well. So did two of the official judges, which makes me happy. The other one scored at 30-27, which makes me wonder, what did you need to see to score a 10-8 round? Did Soriano need to bring actual like brass knuckles out of his trunks?
Yeah,
Like,
I think the second round I went 10-8 and I go, do I go 10-7? I almost got it. I almost got it 30-24. I thought about it. Dude
it
landed
was
over 200. Over 200. What was it? Final.
I forget the number, but it was
over 200.
It was a
well
record
over.
for ground strikes at the beginning of the third round, and then he went out and it hit him like another 80 times. I think it was.
Yeah, I know when the stats pop up. It was early in the third round. The stat popped up like he just reached 200 significant strikes, and it was like 4.5 minutes left in the round. Like he was probably closer to 300 significant strikes.
Like, having said all that, I don't blame Baeza. I know that Baeza did not, even if he is at MMA Masters, he did not spend the last year and a half going, okay, I'm going to come back as the welterweight Ryan Hall. I'm going to leg lock these fools. No, he got out there in the first 60 seconds. He realized, okay, this guy can wrestle. He's going to wrestle, and I can't stop him. I need to shoot the moon here, or I know exactly how this fight turns out. And he tried something. I'm okay with it. I know that wasn't his first plan, but dude, you've wrestled. I've wrestled. Sometimes right away, okay, I can't handle this dude. So if I don't do something right now, I know what happens. So I'm not even mad at Baeza, and it kept it interesting for a moment. A couple people mentioning, yes, we know leg locks are a terrible idea. Having said that, they just don't work. And this showed why they don't work, because he actually had a heel hook for a sec, and then he had a knee bar for a sec, past the fulcrum, but it's tough to do when somebody is literally punching you in the face.
Yeah.
You need two hands to finish a leg lock.
Yeah, I'm just going to say on general, subs from bottom is so rare. And every event goes by, it becomes more and more rare. I mean, you have triangles, you have arm bars, but they're not like they were 10 years ago. I mean, when's the last time someone hit a triangle?
It's interesting you mentioned that, because we're going to be talking about it in a few minutes, but Montana De La Rosa threw up numerous triangle and armbar attempts, but I'm sure she would have been happy if she got the tap, but she mostly used them as a way, one, to stop the ground and pound, two, to look for an opportunity to sweep. Like, they've become almost what an omoplata or like rubber guard mission control were 12 years ago. Like, just a way to shake things up and get out from the bottom, more than like, I'm going for broke, I'm going to end this fight off my back.
Yeah, one day I'd like to rank the 10, the most subs, from on the bottom, what's number one, triangle, armbar, whatever they are statistically, and then just see how, and when I say I would like to do this, what I really mean is Jay Petrie, do this, not me, but and see how that has gone down, I think about triangles back in early UFC days compared to now. It's so freaking rare.
Oh yeah.
But one thing I will say, Soriano, you talk about you've wrestled, I've wrestled. Soriano has wrestled, but he never used it. It's nice to see him wrestling and being very good at it. He's got, besides going for the submissions, he's got great ground and pound. Mm-hmm. It was something we talked about on the previous show. We said, he doesn't look for takedowns, but when he's on top, his ground and pound is mean. And this tonight was fucking give it an A.
Not a lot of the stereotypes about Hawaiian fighters have been kind of outmoded and outdated. It's not 2002. They're not all just Stephen Pauling and Ray Cooper Sr. anymore. But the one thing that sticks out is most Hawaiian fighters know how to wrestle, and most of them underuse it. Like Danny Gay, Ray Cooper, up until tonight, Puna Soriano. Most of them did some wrestling, and they only use it as a last resort. Going to it first, man, made the fight a lot easier than it needed to be. If Soriano just decided to have a middleweight Soriano fight against Baeza, he might still have won, but he would have given Baeza a lot more chance to win the fight than he had.
When I was living in Ithaca and I was kind of flirting with the Cornell wrestling, but joining Cornell wrestling and working with a team and everything before life changed. I think I probably wrestled with the greatest wrestler in Hawaii in history. There's this guy, his name was Travis Lee. He was a 2-time NCAA champion from Hawaii. So yeah, Hawaii can wrestle. Before, you know what? I want to say this one. Marcus Musa's internet is filled with stats bros. I mean, amazing stats bro. NFL and MLB has insane stats nowadays. Harvard, Stanford all have analytics. Sounds like Marcus Musa is going to figure out those stats for us.
And Marcus Mustard is basically our unofficial intern / producer, because he is always just bringing us very polite and helpful statistical corrections on the previews. Like, it's never the nah. You said he was 6-2 in the UFC, but he's 5-2. It's like, it's never that gleeful thing. He's just always bringing like the facts. Usually when I goof stuff up, because I'm the one who's delivering the stats. Much appreciated, dude. Like, seriously, like, lots of love.
Yeah. So assignment for the next show. Let's get those stats for us. Ithaca is gorgeous.
Ithaca? Oh, Ithaca.
Yeah,
dude,
Ithaca is gorgeous, but that's actually the slogan. You see the shirts all the time. It says Ithaca is gorgeous. It was like a big shirt when I was there, as in the gorgeous that are there. Then you also have obviously the running on the gorgeous. So that was the main card. The main card was fire. I mean, it was,
dude. The difference in violence level between the main card and the undercard of this fight is an all-timer.
Yeah. And let's get into every single fight from this point forward was a decision. Before
three splitters in the first 6 fights.
Yeah, 2 of them shouldn't have been. But before that, Ludwig Klein took on Thiago Moises. Klein winning by unanimous decision. I think Klein could turn into a top 15 guy. And this is a friggin' division. That's a pretty bold statement. Agree or disagree?
Agree. And it's funny because I think it was Laura Sanko who just kind of half seriously compared Brad Katona to Michael Chandler on, during his fight. But Ludwig Klein is the one that makes me think a little bit of Chandler. Like, he doesn't have the same lights out wrestling, but he's got the same kind of just fast twitch athleticism that almost makes it irrelevant that he's short and gives up reach to everybody. Like, think of how much success Michael Chandler has had at lightweight, despite being like 5'7" and having short arms. Like that's fine.
One thing I'll say about Chandler, I mean, obviously he hits hard, but he's historically has great footwork. He's always kept his base underneath when he's landing shots. Mm-hmm. And then he just has obviously natural power. Klein, I agree with you saying about the reach and everything, but not like Klein throws a lot more kicks and I think he's a little faster. Dude's a sharpshooter. I would like to see more output, but he was finding his timing, he was setting traps, and he was getting stronger as the fight went on. I mean, when I say he could be a top 15 guy, I mean, the guy's got a lot of experience. He's way more well-rounded than people think. He's got 9 TKOs, he's got 8 subs, and he's only 29. I mean, like, he's probably just now entering his prime year, so he can still improve in the next 2 or 3 years. So, yeah, I like this dude.
Yeah, he went from just another guy at featherweight to being a person of interest at lightweight. Just interesting how that works.
I want to say a rant for a second. The one thing that I'm not super sure of, I've always thought Klein had probably better takedown defense than credited, but who was the broadcaster? It was Brett Fitzgerald, Paul Felder, and Laura Sanko tonight. They were going crazy about Klein's hips and saying, "Oh my gosh, like his takedown defense, you can't get him down. How great it was." I was like, no, it was exactly what I said about Moises in the preview. He's got good timing on his entries, but he's not a wrestler. He doesn't drive through the second level. He doesn't cut the corner. He shoots and stops.
He's built to make the other guy sprawl look amazing.
Yes, exactly. Like he's a guy, if he was in a wrestling room, you'd flip out on. Like if my son shot on a guy and stopped, my son's still, he's 9. And I'd be like, turn the corner, Robbie, turn the corner, go, or I'll be like, head behind him, little things like that. Yeah. He does that. He understands the shot aspect, but doesn't realize that that's step one. There's another step two that he hasn't go to. So,
and step one never works on the really good wrestlers.
No, it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. So, anyways, before that, the fight that I was super excited for as Chuck Buffalo took on what was it, Big Charlie versus Chuck Buffalo. Big Charlie got the first round TKO. This is one of the fights that I think I was one of the most confident I was. Is Big Charlie. I believe in him. I don't want to say like what I just said about Klein and sound like a broken record, but I mean, dude's a deadly sniper. I mean, I love this dude's attacks. I love his body work, his accuracy. Dude throws a step in knee and just walks away, completely turns his back and walks away, and just knew. It was one of the most gangsta things I've ever seen.
And it wasn't the Mark Hunt, like wishful thinking, like if I just walk away with my hands in the air, maybe they'll call it because I'm Mark Hunt. Like he knew. And it's the liver shot, it's a delayed reaction thing. So it's the equivalent of like Larry Bird, like shooting a three and just walking away or starting to run back down the court because he knows it's in. Yeah.
It reminded me of a movie like where a guy's like a super badass, like the Joker when he like blows up the whole hospital and he just kind of walks away and then all of a sudden the hospital explodes behind him, or Iron Man, he shoots the missile and just starts walking away and then all of a sudden the freaking town explodes behind him. Like that's what it felt like. It was just like that was one of the coldest moments I've ever seen in the sport.
And it's going to be fun times for a good while here because Prates has that thing, and he doesn't strike. I mean, he's not Israel Adesanya. He's not Alex Pereira, but it's the same level of outclassing when he takes on regular good MMA strikers. Because Ratke's not a bad striker. He knows how to defend himself, but when it comes to it, he's kind of a bread and butter kickboxer who swings real hard on stuff, and that's good enough. It's been good enough to carry him to this point against regional and low-level UFC competition, but Prates he made him look slow, made everything look telegraphed and obvious. And yeah, the whole setup, like SOS Rampages, the face Prates made when he hurt him, because that was the second liver shot. It's like almost the same way that Fajeda hit Stoltzfus with two spinning elbows. And the first one was just kind of like the measuring one. He hit him with a knee to the body, like maybe 15 to 30 seconds before. But then that second one, it's like Prates knew he had him right where he wanted him. It was so evil. Like, oh, chills.
Yeah, he was a badass. Probably the complete opposite is Brad Katona took on Jesse Butler. Brad Katona came in almost a 7-1 favorite. Dude, this fight sucked. At least the first two rounds sucked. Jesse Butler's just not UFC level. Did you learn anything about Brad Katona?
Yes. I learned that I don't want to see him fight anymore. It's like I realized what he was kind of 2 rounds into the fight. He is Lance Palmer with less sizzle, which shouldn't be possible. Tristan Critchfield, features writer for Sherdog, after I said that, he's like, so he's he's the Brad the after party Katona. Like
Brad the after party. So I watched a documentary on Lance Palmer when he was in high school. Dude, his dad is freaking psycho.
It's like sports dad psycho.
Oh, he's the ultimate. Like his, made him stay back a year, and and he's get the extra year of eligibility, and he had he'd have a full wrestling practice, but he also had to get up at like 4 a.m. and have another wrestling practice, and then he'd go and wrestle at St. Edward's. Like I know most people here are not gonna say that is like a who's who. I mean, there's 10, 12 different top wrestling schools. DC actually coaches one of them, or he did. St. Edward's is right up there. It's in Ohio. So his whole documentary was called Pinned. His dad ran like this exotic animals. Like, I don't know. It was like they bring him to like schools or some shit. I don't know.
So some Tiger King shit too.
Yeah, some Tiger King shit. and like one of them was like a fucking bear, and he was like wrestling bear like Habib, but it was like a grown bear. Like it wasn't like a little baby bear. It was like fucking grizzly bear. I don't know if it was a grizzly bear. I don't think I can try to remember. It was a long time ago when I watched it. But yeah, when I met Lance Palmer at PFL once, after I mentioned, I said, "Hey, did I actually watch it?" He's like, "No way." I'm like, "Yeah, I watched it." And I wanted to be like, I talked about him wrestling band, and back of my mind, I was thinking, "That's fucking crazy, dude." Like, you hate your dad?
Like the Marv Marinovich of wrestling, just like
Yeah.
crazy driving. Yeah.
But anyways, back to this fight real quick. I mean, just another example if you want to say that wrestling, jiu-jitsu off your back just doesn't work. Jesse Butler is a perfect example. The rematch that Ben demanded, Andrea Lee took on Montana De La Rosa. This was our other consensus upset pick because we both picked Montana De La Rosa to get her revenge, and she did, winning by split decision. Dude, it was 11-0 on MMA decisions. I thought she clearly won the second and third round. I don't know how you could score the fight for Andrea Lee at all.
There were a couple of janky ass scorecards, and at least one of them was due to a Kentucky judge that only ever judges high level MMA when it comes through Kentucky, and delivered once again. But yeah, I gave De La Rosa, I think I gave her all 3 rounds, but 2 and 3 were pretty unquestionable. Like,
so Montana De La Rosa trains in Fort Worth, Texas. You know how I feel about Fort Worth, Texas. It's funny. I remember you saying once that every girl in Fort Worth, Texas looks like Andrea Lee. I wonder if like Montana De La Rosa felt like she was facing as like a sparring partner there, because I'm sure all her sparring partners look.
No, like, she leaves Fortis MMA, walks out to the street corner, and it's like the scene in that Matrix movie where like Neo fights 50 Agent Smiths at the same time.
Yeah.
Like every chick just looks like Andrea Lee.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Montana De La Rosa is like the only brunette in Fort Worth, Texas. Not bashing her looks, man. She's a very attractive young lady herself. But I felt better about Montana De La Rosa. I really felt heading into this was a battle of 2-shot fighters. And then I get reminded that, oh, wait, she's only 29, that she can still make improvements. And like, even though she went through like a little valley there, maybe she's coming out of it, because I think her wrestling is grossly overrated. I think, you've heard me say this, I think generally speaking, women's wrestling is overrated. It's just such a small pool. Though I want to say this, I do believe the next generation it's the fastest growing sport in America, at least women's sport. It would be much different.
Yes.
But her striking looks so much better than I remembered.
Completely agreed. And combine that with the fact that Lee's striking has always been overrated and had been going downhill, and all of a sudden Montana De La Rosa is winning the striking exchanges. Just her hands looked faster. Yeah, she like, I still kind of modest on her upside, but at 29, she's got time to work.
Yeah, I wish one thing she'd do, like it was the third round. She did in the second round, she lost position. In the third round, she did again. She actually kept the position this time, but she got a takedown, and she had like back control, and she like jumped to put the hooks in and like had herself hanging over the top. And I'm like, why did people are so rushed to get those hooks in instead of controlling and just straight referee position ride a person? I don't understand. Think about the amount of times you see someone throw hooks in and lose position because of it.
Yep.
You never see the Dagestanis rush to get hooks in. Ever. No.
Dagestanis just care about the wrist control and sometimes one hook, kind of like the Navy ride. Basically,
before we move on, I got one more last question for you. When will we see the trilogy fight, Ben?
2029. Where Montana De La Rosa will be 35, and by that point her kid will be 38, and like, yeah.
Before that, probably the most disrespected guy in the UFC. Why this guy is buried this far down on the prelims is mind-boggling me. Daniel Marcos took on John Castaneda in his probably, for an undefeated fighter, his toughest test today. It should have been his toughest test today on paper. Marcos won a unanimous decision. That I love this guy. I know you're not sold. I've been sold on him.
I'm coming around because two important things happened. One, Marcos's boxing continued to look very, very sharp. And two, like he could almost completely blanked a good wrestler in that division in Castaneda. Like Castaneda didn't really get a decent takedown until it was way too late.
Yeah, I mean Castaneda. I think Castaneda gave up on his wrestling too early. I think he got really frustrated by Marcos. I mean, Marcos is a sharpshooter. I mean, he was those, especially those teep kicks late, where you started. He was boxing pretty much the whole fight, and then late in the second and pretty much all third, you started seeing these teep kicks. He's digging those toes into the liver. His right hand is a sharpshooter. I mean, it's short, tight, no tells. I mean, he was busting him up with that.
This hurts me to say because I'm a Houston guy, and you know that I'm a shameless homer. But Daniel Marcos is turning into what I hoped Adrian Yanez would be, like an elite boxer, an elite boxer who's developing just the right kicks at just the right time and is good at staying upright so that he can make people navigate that minefield. Like Marcos is looking great, dude. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see him if we see him on an undercard again, it's going to be of a pay-per-view. Otherwise, I think he's done with these meaningless mid-card fight night things.
Yeah, what I like about it is this fight, it didn't seem meaningless heading into it. Like it seemed like it was a tough test, but then he made it seem meaningless. Like, dude, this is too low for me. I've already passed this. If his takedown defense continues to improve and he becomes like a Jose Aldo where he can stop takedowns. I mean, the guy's 16-0, 3-0 in the UFC. I think he needs to step up. I think it's time for him to face like a top 15 guy.
Agreed. Like there's no point in letting him continue to feast on the John Castanedas of the world.
I'm gonna match him. I think he should have a main card fight. Probably not a pay-per-view, but like maybe he could be like the ESPN portion of a pay-per-view, or like a third from the top, kind of on a fight night, even co-main event on a fight night. I'm gonna give him Jonathan Martinez next. I mean, that's a guy who's a tough guy coming off a loss to Jose Aldo.
I love that fight. I mean, Martinez, I still believe in Martinez.
I do too.
I think he just got the deer in headlights thing.
Yeah. A little bit of voodoo going on him.
Little bit of voodoo. And if he really is the guy that I thought he was, what a great test for Marcos. Because you know what? Almost the only success Castaneda had in the fight was when he was kicking Marcos's lead leg early. Like that was the one thing he did that actually worked. And
then he did have that. He had that high kick late, remember?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like, that's like a one-off thing. But like in terms of approaching with a game plan, these are the things you're doing that are working. Like he gave up on the wrestling and the low kicks pretty early. And yeah, aside from that, his only bright spot was that high kick late.
Before that, Denise Gomez took on Eduardo Mora, winning. Gomez win by split decision. Let's go back a day first. Let's go to yesterday. Mora didn't miss by much, but missed weight again.
Yep.
Dude, what? This girl they have to force her up. I mean, she can't
force her up
in the division again.
So she's headed to the smoke break division. But for what it's worth, they fought at 117 pounds, and it did not matter for Denise Gomez.
Yeah, and I think to Mora's detriment, I think her trying to get down to 115 is hurting her because the style she wants to fight, she wants to be a wrestle heavy style. She's zapping her on energy. I mean, the girl is fucking huge. It looked like they were 3 weight classes difference.
And as good as she is at what she does when things are clicking, she's going to be able to get down flyweights.
No, I agree. Yeah, like is she going to be a champion? No, but
no,
she's not going to gas as bad. And the funny thing is, Denise Gomez, she was defensive like the entire fight, but still clearly won. Like she never really got to get her offensive going. Like she was landing shots here and there, and the brief moments where she'd have to defensive wrestle, But she clearly she clearly won. And the one worry we had about her was her takedown defense. If she's continuing, even when Mora took it down, I mean, she was hitting switches, she was making it work. If she continues to show improvement on the ground, like you're talking about a girl that could be a top 15 fighter.
She's still, we don't talk about it as much, but she's 24 years old. Like she's the same age as Erin Blanchfield. She's young. And she is at, I mean, she's at the Brazilian female team alpha male, like this team where it's a lot of women clustered in the same few weight class that have kind of the same build and same basic skill set. I think she's going to keep improving. And I already said, man, she got that neck tattoo power. Like
yeah,
woman got a tattoo like that on the front of her neck. She can probably knock me out. I don't care if she's 115 pounds.
Yeah. I should mention that this fight was a split decision. Really kind of crazy.
Another garbage.
I checked MMA decisions. It was 11-0 for Denise Gomez. I mean,
and the majority of those 11 were 30-27.
Yeah.
And then like 29-28 or about half and half.
The first round was close. I actually gave more of the first round, but the second and third was clearly Gomez.
And
you know what?
Grew. Go ahead.
No, I might. Was it the first round or the second round that was close? One of the rounds were close. The third round was obviously all Gomez, but I think it was the first round that was close.
The first round was close. I mean, I leaned Gomez because that standing guillotine I thought was like probably the best offense of the round.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, you might be right. Maybe it was the second round I went for Mora. But I gave one round to Mora, but still, I thought 2 rounds were clearly for Gomez.
Yeah, she looks good, man.
Before that, Cody Stamann took on Taylor Lapilus. Taylor Lapilus winning by unanimous decision. Dude, Lapilus has done like a 180 turnaround. He continues to look good. His takedown defense, I mean, what a change that's been.
His takedown defense, like the first time the UFC let him go, he went 3-1 in his first run in the UFC. Like it was surprising on paper that the UFC let him go, but on the other hand, it wasn't that surprising because 1, his fights were kind of boring, and 2, yeah, like he had very European takedown defense. He's looked like a whole different fighter since he's been back. Just his fights are more exciting. He's throwing better volume. He's more aggressive, and yeah, the whole night and day difference in his defensive wrestling.
Yeah, he had this force field around him. Like every single time Stamann got into that range, he was getting zapped, and it was knees up the middle. It was elbows up the middle. I mean, he was catching him. Every time Stamann got in that range, Lapilus was beating him to it. So like Stamann had to close it just to get the range, but then also like you had to close to get inside and then close again to get onto his hips. And he never got past the first fence. It was like a fortress that had like an inner wall and then an outer wall. And he was never getting past the outer wall. I was really impressed. I believe in this guy. You know, is he a top 15 guy? I mean, that's such a division. I mean, that is the division. But to me, he's like a dark horse. Like, it's not out of the possibility that this guy could be a top 15 guy one day.
I would agree. He's 32, but he seems to be fighting better than he ever has. He's got good skills. He's got good physical tools. Yeah, he's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, he's 30. You said he's 32. So when Raul Rojas is 32, it'll be the year 2037. That's crazy.
It sure is.
So if my math is correct, Rosa was born in 2005.
2004, I think he turns 20 this year.
Okay, so he turns 20. So 2004. Okay, that's fucking crazy. And the first fight of the night, we ended with controversy. I think we started the night with controversy as the first Indian fighter. Was it first Indian? No, first female Indian fighter, correct?
The first female Indian fighter in the UFC, and if she won, she would have been the first Indian fighter of any gender to win an official UFC bout. Like obviously the road to UFC bouts, plenty of Indian guys won. Okay.
Well, she did that as Pooja Tumar took out Riane Dos Santos also called Riane Amanda, which I said, I know I confused somebody on the preview show with that. Oh, God, I hated this decision. I thought it was a 30-20. I scored 30-27. Just I thought the rounds were close. I think they were competitive, but I thought Dos Santos won all 3 rounds.
This was so terrible. Like, the fight was kind of lousy. The decision was terrible. And her post-fight interview, like, normally I can just take or leave, but I'm dying, man. Like, it was so bad that she literally like just screamed like, Jesus is coming back. Jesus is coming soon. And the crowd in Kentucky sold it. Like, that should have been the cheapest pop possible. Like, and maybe they didn't understand her. Maybe they assumed like she was talking about some different Jesus. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a hell of a way to get the night off. Start. Yeah.
I just want your internet just to die right now for saying that. Just shut up.
The lightning strikes my house.
And my new host is Adam Duffy, as Ben is no longer with us. as the good Lord has taken him out. To me, this was I was a little higher on Tomar than you were, just because I think she has a really good kicking game. That said, she doesn't have much else to offer. And once Dos Santos, anytime she realized like, oh, if I just crowd the kicker where she can't get kicks off, she was like a fish out of water. I mean,
and if Riane Dos Santos had been better at cutting off the cage, this would have been a complete washing. Like she spent a good amount of time kind of chasing Tomar around, which is the only thing that I think left the rounds individually as close as they were. Like, yeah.
I checked MMA decision. It was also 11-0. So everybody agreed that Dos Santos won. That's 2 fights in a row that Dos Santos lost by split decision. I thought she won both of them.
Poor thing.
It completely changes.
And she's training down here in Houston now. Like, I guess she's training with crew Bob Perez. Like, Bob Perez must, like, I swear he recruits fighters who make his blood pressure go up. Like, his fighters, Derek Lewis, Daniel Pineda, now Riane Amanda. Like, oh,
not a good night for Houston.
Not a great night for Houston. Not a great couple of weeks. But hey, we'll bounce back.
We have to address the elephant in the room. We have to figure this out.
It's a very small elephant.
Yeah, Sherdog, the Fight Finder, and I have all the confidence in the world in the Sherdog Fight Finder people. Jay Petrie is the head of that. Jay Petrie is on top of stats more than anybody alive. We have her listed as 4'9". We had a debate, and Tapology is a very good website. What they do, they have her listed as 5'1". We thought that was crazy. The UFC website had her as 5'4". We're talking a 7-inch difference.
Yeah, like even Shane Carwin was like, "Come on, guys, chill a little bit."
Like 7 inches.
and Shane Carwin only like took like 4 inches that didn't really count. Yeah. He went from 6'5" to 6'1". Like, it's ridiculous. Riane Dos Santos is listed at 5'3". I think she probably is about 5'3", and she was clearly at least 3 inches taller than Puja Tomar. Like, at most, Puja is 5 foot even.
Yeah. So Jusek says she might be 4'10" or 11. So he's given a little ground. He might have grew a little tall, which is fine. You know, different measurements. I still believe that she's under 5 foot. Like, I think
today,
yeah.
Right now in southern Wales, like, Portia Baines is just in her dream. She's just swatting that shot and just wagging her finger like Dikembe Mutombo. No.
Yeah. I still think we do it Price is Right style. I still think that the Fight Finder is the closest. So we didn't go over. So, but she is definitely nowhere near 5'4". I mean, this is like, you know, it's like different between me and like freaking Jason Tatum over here. So so there you have it. We covered all 14 fights. I'm sorry we had to breeze through some of those. Some of the prelim fights, dude, you should see. So the way I do my notes, I kind of have like blocks. I either give it like a page. I have like a 3-fight block. With the small ones, I put 3 on one page to keep my notes. Bigger ones I go 2, and then like the main event, I usually do like a full page. And then at the very end, I have like the fun stuff. I have a page, dude. I have notes everywhere for the fun stuff. This is, you want to do the awards?
Yeah, let's do the awards. All right. So we have 4 performances of the night, no fight of the night.
All right. Let's throw out to the chat. Everyone says what they would give, not what they think.
Yeah.
And
don't guess. You probably already know what one. Say whom you would award your 4 performance bonuses of the night to, or if you think there should have been a fight of the night, make with it. We'll read them off. Keith, tell me what you would do.
All right. And I'll tell you, and then you can tell me yours. The spinning back elbow, Bruno Ferreira. To me, that's got to get something. Reese, first combination, that's got to give me something for that. Dominick Reyes coming back, first round knockout. I give him a little money. And there's a lot of people. I mean, I'm leaving up Imavov off the list. I'm leaving Rojas, even though I expect Rojas to get something. I'm gonna go Pretis, the step in knee. Those are the 4 I would give it to. But there's there's a couple people worthy. Who's the 4 that you would give it to?
The 4 that I would give it to, Ferreira is super obvious to me. Prates is super obvious to me. And Reese is super obvious. Like those are the highlight reel finishes that we'll see throughout the rest of the year and every time those guys fight from now on. The other one is a little more up for grabs. The UFC gave the 4th one to Raul Rosas Jr. I'm actually fine with that. When the UFC says performance of the night, 95% of the time they mean finish of the night. Because if you want to talk about a consummate performance that did not end in a finish, given Puna Soriano or Ludovic Klein a little extra cash doesn't bother me one bit. Dominick Reyes, unfortunately, maybe he'll get a little something extra, in the wedding present envelope from Uncle Dana, but he did not get a bonus tonight. Like the UFC's like, dude, we didn't even deposit your win bonus in the bank. We thought you were going to get trucked.
All right. So overall, I think that was a pretty good list. Let's go to this is going to be a big one. Let's go to the cut list. So the cut list is if both me and Ben agree on a fighter, we give the UFC permission to cut that person and make move for other people. Remember, the contender series coming soon, being that it's summertime. So we got to make a lot of room. I have 4 people for the cut list.
You have 4 people for the cut list. I have 1, 2, 3. Do I have more than 3? I have 4.
You have 4. All right. So let's see. How about you name yours? Name one of yours, and I'll see if it's on my list.
Okay. My computer is being.
Okay, I'll go then.
All right. Well, no, here. I'm ready to go.
All right.
Okay. Andrea Lee has lost 5 fights in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, that's as obvious as they come.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable.
She's just losing to other unranked fighters at this point, and her fights aren't that exciting. And we have to hear Tony Kelly talk every time she fights. Gone. Miguel Baeza. I'm sorry to say it, but he's lost 4 in a row, and that includes 2 bad knockouts and 1 absolute drubbing where he probably took more CTE than in the actual knockouts tonight.
Yeah, he hasn't won a fight since 2020. So we're 2 for 2. I actually just realized when I said I had notes everywhere, I have 1 on the side. I actually have 5, but okay.
Sad as it makes me to say, because I said he looked better in defeat than he has in any of his other fights, even in victory. Dustin Stoltzfus is 2-5 in the UFC at this point. Like, even 185 doesn't need people that badly. But who knows? Maybe he can come back and surprise us, considering how he's starting to look better.
I'm with you, man. That's 3 for 3.
Jesse Butler has 2 fights in the UFC. Normally, I'm not a guy to pull the ripcord, but he's 0-2. And, I mean, he got lamped by Jim Miller. And he was so bad tonight that Brad Katona almost got a finish.
I don't think Brad Katona was even looking for a finish and almost got one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one more that you saved. I was getting rid of Julian Marquez. The guy's lost 3 fights in a row, all by knockout. So I was getting rid of the Cuban Missile Crisis.
I would not be mad at that either. And I mean, Dustin Jacoby has lost 4 of 5, but they're generally against high-level people.
Good guys.
He may just need a vacation and a step down.
Yeah, he might have to take on like UFC newcomers in his next one. Let's get to the Bulls and the Bears. The Bulls and Bears are stock market reference. You want to be on the Bulls list. You don't want to be on the Bears list. We do it hockey style 3, 2, 1. Do you want to do Bulls or do you want to do Bears?
I'm fine with either. I'm hanging loose. I'm feeling good.
All right, let's go. We'll stay negative. Let's go Bears. Do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Bears?
Yeah, Bears.
Oh, I'll go.
Okay.
And forgive me if like any of these like step on yours, but you mentioned it before. Texas wasn't a great night for Texas. Andrea Lee hails from Louisiana, but actually from Texas, lost. Jared Cannonier.
She lost to a Texan person though. Fort Worth's own.
She lost to someone from Montana who moved to Texas. All right.
Hey, there's always a good reason to move to Fort Worth. Yeah. Listen, I'll tell you right now, if I relocate, I'll be in Fort Worth.
Well, Jared Cannonier lost. Maybe he needs to move back to Dallas, Fort Worth. Ricky Tercios obviously didn't have a great night at the office. So yeah, not a great night for Texan fighters. Dustin Jacoby, like the fun is over. For a minute, 2-3 years ago, he was such a pleasant surprise. Just came back out of nowhere, was, crushing people, looked really good. And that's really just, whether it's people just catching up to him or the wear and tear of a long MMA career coupled with a long kickboxing career, he's clearly slipped. Like that's rough. And my top one, you know what? I'll just offer the 2. I guess I don't feel negative enough. I'll leave the rest for you. Oh, right. 30C West, like you already put it up there. That's great.
Yeah. So actually, Jacoby was actually going to be my number 1 in this. So I'll mix it up. I'll give you 3 new ones. I'm going to go Thiago Moises. This guy had so much buzz about him in like 2020. He was like this guy rising up the rankings, headlining, fight nights and stuff. The dude has gone 3-4 since. I mean, this guy's like closer to the cut list than he is, contention or the rankings. My number 2. How about Eduardo Mora? I mean, anytime you lose your O is always a negative. Add on the, miss weight, just, social. Obviously, she loses some of her person too. She drops. And number 1, Jared Cannonier. I mean, he's 40 years old. We talked about the way the middleweight division is, the people rising. We didn't even mention the up and comers that, a guy like Bahario, who's rising up the rankings. Michelle Pajeda. I mean, not a comer, but that's another guy. He's contention. Eventually, Bo Nickel. Like the chance of him ever getting a title shot to me is almost to 0. So, all right, let's go to the Bulls. These are the list you want to be on. These people had a really good night. Again, we do it hockey style 3, 2, 1. I'll go first this time.
Go for it.
I mean, you got to go with Raul Rosas. 19 years old. Dude's 3-1 in the UFC. Mm-hmm. Like, if he never fights in the UFC again, to have a 3-1 record, there is so many fighters who fought in the UFC wish they had that record. And this guy's only 19. You know what? Obviously, I'm not predicting this, but if anybody could, again, this is actually, I shouldn't even say this. Is really stupid of me to say, but if he has a long career in the UFC where he could go like 10, 12, 14 years at this pace, this guy's probably got the best chance of beating Jim Miller's record because he's already got 3 wins and he's not even in his 20s yet. Again, like he's got to be extremely durable too. Number 2, I'm going to go with the main eventer. Imavov. again, like I don't think he's really that close to a title shot or anything like that, but he's headlined 2 main events in a row now, and he's won both of them. So Imavov stock going up. And number one, again, I think both me and you don't really believe in it, but for tonight at least, Dominick Reyes, man, I think he'll probably be the most talked about. Got back in the win column. He's someone that I think the general public want to be, a good top fighter again. So I'll go with Dominick Reyes. Who you got, Ben?
All right. I actually can easily add 3 more to that, so I will. One, and not joking, like unironically, Puja Tomar. Like, okay, I didn't think she deserved to win tonight. I still don't think she's a future contender in any division in the UFC, but she did make history. I mean,
the country one,
India,
too. The country one.
The country one, and that's important because India has like 1.3 billion people. It's either the first or the second most populous country on the entire planet. You and I remember when 15 years ago, there was one Chinese fighter in the UFC and he was terrible.
Yeah. So I've heard them say, so do we not know which country has the most population? Is that not a thing?
No, like China is kind of mum about the numbers, and India literally cannot count their fucking people. But what I'm saying is, and now like China, it's not planted. China's not supplanted the U.S. or Brazil, but there are more Chinese fighters in the U.S. than Japanese right now. Did you ever think that'd be the case? No.
No, especially not like that when you think of like peak Pride days with like Gomi and Sakuraba. And,
If 10 years from now, there are 30 Indian fighters in the UFC and a couple top 10 fighters, we will always look back on Puja Tomar as a
there you go.
As a pioneer. That's great. That's a win. Nobody can ever take that away from her.
What if Jesus comes back first? That'll ruin it.
Well, just because he'll like make all the wrongs right, and Rayani Amanda will end up getting the W. Got to throw out Ludovic Klein. If Thiago Moises' stock is down, Ludovic Klein's is up, and it's for the converse reasons. The problem with Moises is all that potential and that hype was partly because he was like 25 years old and he was at ATT. So we all assumed he would improve, and basically he stayed the same. Ludovic Klein has improved. He's just getting better and better. That's a good place to be.
That dude's 5-0-1 in his last 6 fights.
Yeah.
He's undefeated in the last 6 fights.
Number one, I mean, I could throw out Daniel Marcos. We've already kind of praised him. Let me throw out Puna Soriano. He came in at a new weight class, looked fantastic, flexed a previously underused part of his game, absolutely brutalized a fighter that, Baeza might be on the skids. We both think he should probably be cut, but if Soriano could do that to Baeza, there are other people in the division he could do that to, and he's going to get a chance.
Yeah. Has really become probably my favorite segment of the show. It's Dude Seriously. I love Dude Seriously. Dude, I got a shitload of them. Do you have any Dude Seriouslys?
I'm not sure I do, but go ahead. And if I think of any, I'll let you know.
And you don't listen to the broadcast, and I do. That's why the broadcast just gives you fruit, like so many easy. Well, first of all, I got to pick a fight. First of all, he's not even in the chat, and he better not. He's not in the chat tonight, and that's because he better be like going to different gyms with a ruler. Like Dev, you're slacking off. You got one assignment from Sherdog. It's not to do podcasts. It's get fighters' heights. Like, dude, seriously, Dev, come on, let's get with it. You're the official measure of the sherdog.com. I mean, the entire website will fold if he doesn't do it. Number 2, did you catch it? They said Eduardo Mora is the Gelatin Almeida of 115.
No.
First of all, she doesn't make 115. And I think that's why they said it, because Gelatin Almeida can also not make 115. So that must be the similarity. So, dude, seriously. All right, so I think Marcos was absolutely brilliant tonight. Castaneda like complained of groin strike twice, but he kicks Castaneda clearly in the groin. They go to like the outside doctor or referee or whatever. And they're like, no, it was good. It was clearly kicked in the groin. Like, dude, seriously? And they're like, all right, keep fighting. So I don't know how true this is. Someone tweeted this out. I don't know how reputable this is, but I'm going to throw it out there anyways because it's super fun. Judge Matt Jones who supposedly judged tonight. Supposedly, now I'm not sure this again. This is just some guy on the internet. I don't know who he was, but guy looked it up. That Matt Jones got his judging license April 26th of this year. If that's true, like, dude, seriously. There's one like, how about I gotta go to another one. How about the corner in the Montana De La Rosa versus Andrea Lee fight? Not the characters, but you have one Andrea Lee getting kissed by her husband or boyfriend, whatever he is.
Boyfriend, yeah.
And like this female cornerman. That's going on. And then Montana De La Rosa, his coach is giving her instruction, and he goes, "You gotta press the action, sweetheart." Like, dude, seriously?
Boyfriend, girlfriend corners.
Like, what is going
terrible
on? But the funny thing is, calling her sweetheart wasn't even her boyfriend. It was like the other coach. It's just like,
oh geez,
she's in a cage fight. Like, you don't have to call her sweetheart.
You don't have to.
How about Pratis? He beats Chuck Buffalo, then starts mouthing off to Bilal Muhammad, who's fighting for the title. Like, dude, seriously? Like, what was that about?
That's an interesting.
All right, how many fights have you think you've watched? 10,000?
Yeah, 10,000 would probably be a guess.
All right. So Lars Sanko said, I've probably done the same. I've never heard anybody ever say this, but Lars Sanko said, well, it's really common saying quick kickers make quick sprawlers. Like, dude, what? I've never heard that before in my life. Dude, seriously?
That's really interesting. Like, what?
Yeah. How about Reese American Reese knocking out American Julian Marquez, and the Kentucky crowd starts chanting USA?
Did they think that Marquez was actually Cuban?
Yes. The whole crowd is cheering USA, and then he starts putting his hands up. He's doing the chant like with him. What, dude? Seriously? Like, man, next time you're at like a high school football game, and like your high school scores a touchdown, start chanting Texas.
I will do that.
Two Texas teams play each other. How about Rojas? He's like, 50 G's, baby, doing all this, and he's like, Dana, I want to buy my mom a house. Rojas, where are you buying a house for 50 grand, dude? Seriously?
Well, in his defense, he called for he tried to bump it to 100,000.
Oh, he did.
Dude, where are you buying a house for 100,000?
Yeah, dude. I mean, he's 19. So he might not know any better.
He might not know how much stuff costs.
All right, I got two more. I told you I had a lot. Brandon Fitzgerald, I got to call this guy out. He started the UFC broadcast, and he mentioned that Paul Felder had his 100th broadcasting his 100th UFC event. But what he didn't do is he didn't credit the source where he got that information, which is our boy Jay Petrie tweeted out right before that. And I know for sure the UFC stole it from Jay. At least credit Jay for that, for doing the research. Like, dude, seriously. And my last one, we went to Kentucky, Ben. Kentucky is known for great sports. They kept talking about Louisville Slugger. I think they mentioned the Kentucky Derby. They mentioned obviously Kentucky basketball, all these great things. But dude, seriously, you got to talk about the great Kentucky sports, and you don't in 7 hours mention the Kentucky Judo Federation. Dude, seriously.
And it's becoming a thing. Like, it got mentioned in Jay Petrie's Prime Picks article. Like, I know people. Yeah, Kentucky is known for its judo. Little known fact. We associate him with Washington, Washington State. We associate him with Seattle, but Demetrius Johnson is from Kentucky. Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. You have anything else?
Well, yeah, dude, seriously. 2 events in, the new UFC gloves have not stopped eye pokes, and Islam Makhachev was right. The stiffness and the seams have led to multiple scrapes where people thought they got poked in the eye, but they're just getting hit by the rough edges of the glove. That's happened at UFC 302 and now again tonight. So,
just move on already.
Dude, seriously, you own the design to the Pride gloves. You've owned it for 17 years now.
All right, let's get to the grade of the card. What was your grade? This is a tough one to grade.
I'm giving it a C because there were moments of A and there were moments of just straight F. And dude, we almost never give a card an F, but just the undercard where it's fight after fight going to decision, crappy decisions, lousy fights. And then we had one of the more violent main cards of the year.
Yeah.
See,
the main card was so hot that I'm going to say, like, I'm graded on a curve. I'm going to give it like a B-. Okay. I keep saying this. The live crowd always brings it up now to me. To me, the broadcast just gave so many Dude Seriously. I'm gonna start having a whole page for Dude Seriously because of the broadcast. So, toughest question tonight is always the listener of the night.
I got one. You know, I don't know if SOS Rampages is new, but at the very least, he's new within the last month or so. He was fantastic. Made me laugh a couple times. Brought some interesting takes on things. Always good to have new people in the chat. I always worry that I'm taking our OGs for granted, but guys, like, I seriously appreciate all of you, but nice to give some love to a new listener.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So obviously there's so many great people tonight. Some of the usuals, it's like it's impossible. Oh, look who just showed up. Dev Goes Fishing just showed up. Dev, did you measure someone tonight? You better come. Give us a quick remark. Who did you get the height? But you know, guys like Marcus Musset, he was so active and great, but it's impossible for someone like him to win. 30C West, Juicex, like these guys, it's really hard for them. Yeah. I'm gonna go with someone that I thought was really good all night. I'm gonna go with Furious D.
All right,
great name. I'm gonna say Furious D is our listener of the night. So there you guys have it. We have covered all of the card, all 14 fights. We'll be back with our preview show, which is much different than this one. If you just listen to this, we do the most in-depth preview show in the world. We'll be previewing UFC Reyes versus Tyra card. Flyweights headlining. How you feel about that, Ben?
I feel good about it. I like flyweight fights, men's flyweight fights. The rest of the card, it's kind of a mixed bag, as fight night cards always are these days. But yeah, we'll talk about all 13 fights.
And then obviously we'll be back this time next week. We'll be recapping it. And then we have 2 massive cards back to back. So we thank you for listening. Guys, make sure you make you share, do all that stuff. If you listen in the day after, just put a comment in there. Tell us what you like, tell us what you didn't like. He's Ben. I'm Keith. This is the Shillan and Duffy Show. Check you guys all out next time.